Welcome to our deep dive into Die Hard,
Die Hard.
the 1988 action film. Well, it's become more than just a typical summer blockbuster, right?
Yeah.
We've got a whole stack of sources for this one.
Oh, wow.
Articles, reviews, behind-the-scenes stuff
Cool.
to uncover its impact.
Okay.
From production details to, its debated status as a Christmas film.
Right.
So even if you haven't seen Die Hard, this deep dive will give you a fascinating look at how a film becomes a cultural touchstone.
Well, one thing that's interesting about Die Hard right off the bat is that it was praised for its blend of action and humor.
Okay.
A lot of critics at the time noted how it had this wit, and memorable dialogue. It wasn't just mindless brawls, which was kind of unusual for action films at that time.
Yeah, that mix of genres definitely made it stand out.
Right.
But I remember reading some critics at the time who questioned the Christmas party setting.
Really?
Like, was it realistic to have everyone stuck at the office on Christmas Eve? Or was that just a way to add a unique backdrop to the action?
It could be both.
Yeah.
I mean, the Christmas setting adds this layer of intrigue.
Right.
But it also raises questions about, the film's relationship to reality.
Yeah.
Does it ground the story, or is it more of a stylistic choice?
Yeah. I guess it's up to the viewer to decide how much they want to buy into that premise.
Uh-huh.
Now, let's talk about John McClane.
Okay.
Bruce Willis's portrayal was a departure from the typical action hero at the time, right?
Totally.
He was vulnerable. He was dealing with these personal issues and trying to reconnect with his wife while battling terrorists.
Yeah, absolutely. And that vulnerability, I think, was a key part of his appeal. He was an everyman, thrust into this extraordinary situation.
Right.
And that made him relatable.
Yeah.
It's interesting to compare him to other action heroes of the time, like Schwarzenegger or Stallone, who often embodied this hyper-masculine, almost invincible archetype.
So Die Hard was a turning point then in how masculinity was portrayed on screen.
I think it certainly challenged that prevailing image of the stoic, emotionless action hero.
Right.
McClane was allowed to express fear, to be vulnerable, and to even cry.
Yeah.
It humanized the action hero in a way that hadn't really been seen before.
Yeah. And of course, we can't forget about Alan Rickman's brilliant performance as Hans Gruber, the villain.
Oh, yeah.
He brought this sophisticated, chilling menace to the role.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that a great hero needs an equally compelling bad guy, right?
It's true. The dynamic between hero and villain is so crucial in action films.
Yeah.
Now, for those who haven't seen the movie, let's give a quick spoiler-free rundown of the plot.
Okay, so John McClane arrives at his estranged wife Holly's office Christmas party.
Right.
Held at Nakatomi Plaza, a real skyscraper in Los Angeles.
And just when he thinks he's in for a night of awkward small talk and
Yeah.
maybe a chance to patch things up with Holly, a group of terrorists, led by Hans Gruber, takes over the building and holds everyone hostage.
So instead of recounting the whole plot, maybe we can focus on how the story unfolds.
Yeah.
It's full of this escalating tension.
Uh-huh.
McClane's clever use of his surroundings.
Right.
And this contrast between his desperate heroism and the villain's meticulous planning.
Yes, it's that combination of suspense, resourcefulness, and character development that elevates Die Hard beyond a simple action flick.
Right. And now let's step behind the scenes.
Okay.
And talk about the production.
Great.
One thing that fascinated me was learning that Fox Plaza, the actual building they used for Nakatomi, was still under construction during filming.
Wow. It's remarkable that they were able to shoot in a partially built skyscraper.
Yeah.
I wonder if that presented any challenges for the filmmakers.
I can't imagine the logistics of it all.
Yeah.
I read that they had to actually work around construction schedules.
Oh, wow.
And modify parts of the building.
Really?
To accommodate the action sequences.
Right.
Wow, talk about a tight deadline.
Yeah.
It speaks to their commitment to bringing this vision to life.
And let's not forget the budget. It was between $25 and $35 million.
Wow.
Which was a huge sum for an action film at that time.
Especially considering that the studio was taking a chance on Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
He wasn't a major action star yet.
Right.
He was mostly known for his comedic role in Moonlighting.
Uh-huh.
So it was a gamble that paid off handsomely.
Oh, definitely. And his dedication to the role was evident in the fact that he did a lot of his own stunts.
Oh, yeah.
Including that legendary fire hose jump from the building.
That stunt was incredibly risky.
It was.
He dropped 25 feet onto an airbag with his 60-foot wall of flames behind him.
I know.
Adds to the film's intensity knowing that was really him putting himself in harm's way.
It's crazy to think about the risks they took back then.
Yeah.
After the accident on the set of Twilight Zone, the movie a few years earlier.
Right.
There is this heightened awareness of safety on set. Yes, that tragedy cast a long shadow over the industry. It's a reminder that filmmaking, despite its glamour, can be a dangerous business.
Now, shifting gears a bit, we also have some information about the film's journey from script to screen.
Okay.
It wasn't always smooth sailing.
Yes, the screenwriter struggles.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget that even a big-budget Hollywood production like Die Hard has a human story behind it.
Right.
The screenwriter Jeb Stewart was going through financial difficulties when he started working on the script, and he really needed this project to be successful.
So how did he manage to get the attention of a major studio like 20th Century Fox?
Well, he pitched his ideas to a producer at the Gordon Company.
Okay.
And from there, it caught the attention of Fox executives. But even then, it wasn't a guarantee. The script went through multiple revisions and rewrites.
Wow.
Which is pretty standard in Hollywood, before it finally got the green light.
It makes you wonder how much of the final product reflects the screenwriter's original vision versus the input from the director, producers, and even the actors. It's a fascinating collaborative process.
It is. And in the case of Die Hard, director John McTiernan and producers Lawrence Gordon and Joel Silver all played a role in shaping the final film. So it's not just one person's vision. It's a culmination of many creative minds coming together.
And the result was a box office smash that left a lasting legacy on action cinema. Delve into that impact right after this. Okay, so we talked about the production, the plot, the characters, but what about the impact?
Yeah.
Die Hard wasn't just a hit, right? It seemed to change the action movie landscape.
Well, I think Die Hard arrived at a time when action movies were all about those larger-than-life heroes.
Right.
Your Schwarzeneggers, your Stallones.
Yeah.
These guys were practically invincible, taking on armies single-handedly.
Right. Big muscles, bigger guns.
Yeah.
Not a lot of introspection.
Exactly.
But McClane, he's running around barefoot, bleeding, cracking jokes.
Yeah.
Did that make him more appealing to audiences?
It's possible. I think audiences were ready for a hero who was more flawed, more human. McClane gets hurt. He makes mistakes. He even shows fear.
Yeah.
It makes his eventual triumph even more satisfying.
It's interesting you mentioned those other action heroes.
Yeah.
Do you think Die Hard directly influenced the way masculinity was depicted in those later films?
That's a good question.
Like, did it pave the way for more emotionally complex characters?
It's hard to say for certain, but I do think Die Hard challenged that prevailing image of the stoic, emotionless action hero.
Yeah.
McClane crying after Argyle is presumed dead.
Yeah.
That's a powerful moment that you wouldn't have seen in many action films before.
Right.
It suggests that showing vulnerability doesn't diminish a man's strength.
Yeah, it's like Die Hard gave action heroes permission to have feelings.
Right.
Now, another thing that stood out was the whole Die Hard on a trope that emerged after the film's success.
Oh, yeah.
It seemed like every action movie was suddenly about a lone hero trapped in a confined location.
It's a testament to the power of that premise. But it is fascinating to consider why it resonated so strongly with audiences.
Yeah.
Maybe it taps into a primal fear of being trapped, of having to fight for survival against overwhelming odds.
Or maybe it's just the appeal of seeing a resourceful hero use their surroundings to outsmart their enemies.
Right.
There's a certain satisfaction in watching McClane turn everyday objects into weapons.
That's true. But I also think that Die Hard on a trope speaks to a broader trend in action cinema.
Okay.
It's a move away from the large-scale global conflicts that dominated earlier films.
Right.
Towards more intimate personal stories.
It's less about saving the world and more about surviving the night.
Exactly. And I think that shift reflects a change in our cultural anxieties. We're less worried about nuclear war and more concerned about terrorism, about random acts of violence, about feeling vulnerable in our own homes and workplaces.
So in a way, Die Hard tapped into that sense of vulnerability.
Yeah.
That fear of the unknown, but also offered this reassuring fantasy of a lone hero who could overcome those threats.
I think that's a perceptive analysis. And it helps explain why the film continues to resonate with audiences today, even though the Cold War is long over, and the world has changed in countless ways.
Now let's go back to the productions for a moment. You mentioned earlier how risky that fire hose jump was.
Oh, yeah.
It makes you appreciate the physical commitment Bruce Willis brought to the role.
He really put himself out there, literally. And it wasn't just the fire hose jump. He did a lot of his own stunts, which added to the film's authenticity and intensity.
And it wasn't just Willis. The whole production had this sense of pushing boundaries of doing things that hadn't been done before.
Right.
Like shooting in a partially constructed skyscraper.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It speaks to the ambition and the ingenuity of the filmmakers. They weren't afraid to take risks, to experiment, to create something truly unique.
And that willingness to experiment extended to the film's visual style as well.
Yeah.
It had this gritty realism, this sense of immediacy that you didn't see in a lot of action films at the time.
Yes, the use of handheld cameras, tight close-ups, the quick cuts, it created this visceral, almost documentary-like feel.
Right.
You felt like you were right there in the action, experiencing the chaos and the danger alongside McClane.
It's almost like a precursor to the found footage style that became popular years later.
There are definitely some similarities, and that visual style, combined with the film's tight pacing and suspenseful editing, helped elevate Die Hard above the typical action movie fare.
And that innovation didn't stop with the visuals. The sound design is incredible, too.
Oh, absolutely.
The echoing gunfire in those enclosed spaces of Nakatomi Plaza, the shattering glass, the clanging metal.
Right.
It all adds to the film's visceral impact.
It's a testament to the sound team's attention to detail.
Right.
They created this immersive sonic landscape that really draws you into the world of the film.
Yeah. It's amazing how all these elements come together to create such a powerful and an enduring experience. Yeah. It's no wonder Die Hard continues to be celebrated as one of the greatest action films ever made.
Totally.
Okay, we've explored the action, the impact, even the stunts.
Right.
But there's one Die Hard debate we can't ignore. Is it a Christmas movie?
Oh, the age-old question.
Yeah.
It seems like every December, this debate heats up online, and there are some compelling arguments on both sides.
Let's start with the pro-Christmas camp.
Okay.
They point to the setting. Christmas Eve.
Right.
The office party.
Yeah.
Those cheesy holiday tunes playing in the background.
Right.
Does that automatically qualify it as a Christmas film?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But it does create a festive atmosphere, which might influence how viewers perceive the film.
Right. And there are those who see Die Hard as a twisted take on those classic Christmas themes. Family redemption, good triumphing over evil.
Right.
You've got McClane trying to reconnect with his wife, crawling through ventilation shafts with a teddy bear strapped to his back.
It's interesting to consider those parallels, but does a Christmas setting automatically imbue a film with those deeper themes, or is it just clever window dressing?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some might argue that Die Hard could take place at any time of year and still be essentially the same story.
Absolutely. The core conflict, a lone hero battling terrorists, transcends any specific holiday.
But then there's the emotional core of the film.
Right.
McClane's love for Holly is what drives him to fight to risk everything to save her.
Yeah.
Some might see that as a very Christmassy sentiment.
It's certainly a powerful emotional arc, but is it inherently tied to Christmas, or is it simply a universal theme of love and sacrifice?
I guess it depends on how you interpret it.
Yeah.
Maybe for some viewers, the Christmas setting amplifies those emotions.
Right.
Makes them feel more potent.
It's possible. But for others, the holiday elements might feel like a distraction, a way to soften the edges of a violent action film.
So where do you stand on this personally? Are you team Christmas Die Hard or team action Die Hard?
I think what's fascinating is that the debate exists at all, Yeah. It shows how Die Hard has transcended genre conventions and become a part of the cultural fabric. People feel strongly about it.
Right.
And that passion is worth exploring.
Exactly. It's not just about categorizing a film.
Right.
It's about what the film means to us.
Yeah.
How it resonates with our own experiences and beliefs.
And perhaps that's the most important takeaway from this deep dive.
Yeah.
Die Hard is more than just an action movie or a Christmas movie. It's a reflection of ourselves, of our anxieties and our aspirations.
And maybe that's why it continues to spark conversations and debates.
Right.
Even decades later.
It's a film that challenges us to think critically, to question our assumptions, and to engage in meaningful dialogue with each other.
And on that note, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Let us know.
What elements resonated most with you? Share your insights with us on social media or wherever you listen to podcasts.
And as you revisit the film, consider the layers we've uncovered. The production details the cultural impact, the enduring debates. It might enrich your viewing experience and give you a new appreciation for this action classic.
This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of Die Hard. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a fascinating topic. Until then, yippee-ki, yay!